Welcome to Describing the Skybox, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Rutherman.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about Far Cry 5, a game that was developed by Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Toronto, published by, you guessed it, Ubisoft, and was released in 2018 on Windows, PS4, Xbox One, and Stadia.
But first, if you can give us a like or a rating or subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. Chad, can you describe Far Cry 5?
Far Cry 5 is a big open world action game, which is the definition of the genre of all the Far Cry games in existence,
and
most likely.
All Ubisoft games.
And also all Ubisoft games. And I am a little bit torn about where to start with this one because I have a lot of thoughts. I have a really frivolous note that I do feel like I want to start with. Mm-hmm. And then maybe we can jump into something else. I play this game on, so this part's boring, so just let it sink into your brain and then just push it back out immediately afterward. I played this game on the PlayStation 5. I believe I played the PlayStation 4 version of it. I don't know if there is a PS5 like updated version. But I owned the game already as a PlayStation game, and I booted it up on the PlayStation and I played the game. And after I finished playing the game, I had all these conflicting thoughts about the game. And so I wanted to return to one of my favorite ever games, Far Cry 3, another game in the franchise. And so I went to my PC where I purchased Far Cry 3, and I booted up the game and it said, well, hold on though. Have you tried Ubi Connect? Are you logged into Ubi Connect to play the game that you bought? And of course I was not. And Ubi Connect was somehow attached to an email that I have not had access to in over a decade. And so I couldn't play that game. And apparently all Ubisoft games on Steam have to go through their specific Ubisoft launcher now. So the first thing I'd like to say about this game is that no matter what we say about it, don't buy it or play it, and fuck Ubisoft, and why are you doing this? It's maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life, and when I really thought about it, I remember complaining about this on Assassin's Creed 2, and they have not changed a fucking thing.
They've changed the name of it, I think. Wasn't it used to be called Uplay?
Yeah, it did used to be called Uplay. You're correct.
Yeah. But once again, I played it on something where I didn't need a Uplay account. I don't remember. But I think I played it on PS3 and didn't need a Ubisoft account somehow.
Oh, for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's the one thing I wanted to mention is that I'm kind of over Ubisoft as a company having discovered this. Considering I was thinking about buying the game on Steam and now know that if I had done that, I would not have been able to play the game. So that is unfortunate, I would say. But yeah, so we'll skip through that, and I will talk about, I said that I had conflicting thoughts. I don't know what it is about this game, but that's what we're going to work out, I think, through this therapy session, aka podcast. But I am a big fan, or have in the past been a big fan of the Far Cry franchise. I played a little bit of 1, and wasn't a huge fan of it. I know people really like 2, but I still haven't gotten around to it. But I really love 3 and 4. And I like the ideas that are contained within those games and sort of how they play out. It's a good kind of game for a certain kind of mood, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so I have complicated feelings about Far Cry 5. But they're only complicated because I do like the game at like a baseline level. Because otherwise I would just say, this is my least favorite Far Cry game, and move on and go do other things with my life. But because there's an underlying part of it that I think it actually does do really well, it makes me more disappointed in the parts of the game that I felt didn't live up to what I was hoping for. And me also making me want to find like the good, like the reasoning, what are the good design decisions that maybe I'm not connecting with or that I think fell short. So it does feel, to me, this is like a series that I have played extensively in the past, and coming back to it now was like, is it me? Am I old now? Is the fact that I'm constantly getting shot at all times overwhelming to me because of my dwindling mental faculties? Like, where is the breaking point?
And I guess on the flip side, I've never played Far Cry. I knew 3 and 4 were pretty popular. I tend to just not like what I would refer to as guy with gun games.
Sure.
If you're a longtime listener to the podcast, you already know this about me. So like they've always kind of lacked a hook for me personally. But yeah, like I did enjoy the game, I think, overall. So we can get into it. But yeah, I feel like you're gonna be the one who needs to drive this ATV.
Yeah. I will say, how do I word this exactly? The Far Cry franchise does not have a ton of defined sort of like goals in the way that if you were to describe, like, because it isn't a narrative franchise. Like, the games aren't really about their stories. After 3, the games became about their villains, but I don't necessarily think that is a narrative hook as much as it is a character hook, like to separate those two things. The plot isn't that important. The characters are more important. But only the bad guys. Get in contact with us if you liked a single character in this game that wasn't a villain. Or could name one.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of you could probably name stuff, but
the guy, I guess he would have been the sheriff, because he's the one who always called you rookie.
He's the sheriff.
Yeah, he's got like the big mustache and the cowboy hat. I feel like I like that guy.
He's in the prison section.
Yeah, he's in the prison mission.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's
you don't remember his name, so that's one guy though. Yeah, I don't know. They don't put too much characterization into their protagonists as much as they do their antagonists, I suppose. But that has been, more recently, that's been sort of like the through line. Like 3, 4, 5, and 6 all have really well-defined and like antagonists. They've got fucking, what is his name? Gianmarco, the guy who plays Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, is the villain in Far Cry 6. And that's like a big celebrity get, and they obviously spent it on their villain and not on a character that you would actually spend any time with.
Right.
And then historically, they've always taken place in these like exotic locations. And I think that is, if I had to guess, because I'll do it early this time and not have to edit it in. This is a Fanbruary game. This game was suggested to us by a member of our community. And I don't know what they knew about like our general disposition toward games of this kind, but I suspect that the reason that Far Cry 5 came up is either one, because it just happens to be their like favorite Far Cry game, which I think is totally possible, or it's because it is the one that is set in America. Because when you could accuse, I think fairly, the Far Cry series up until 5 of being a little bit like, they kind of exoticize places where people like live and have lives and cultures, and they're like, isn't it weird? And you like drop in on a parachute and shoot a grenade launcher at a gas station, and it rewards you for doing it.
Right.
And it makes you seem like kind of a weirdo. But the fact that this one takes place in the United States is like a notable thing about it in a way, because it is to many players the least exotic location that it's gone to. And I have a suspicion that plays into this game's kind of lasting legacy. It's just its setting is so unique compared to the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think it was funny to read that it was developed by Ubisoft Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah, it's Ubisoft, a French company. They're two studios that are in Canada, did the Far Cry game in America.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so to me, I think the big disconnect here, one of the things that I dislike about this game is the fact that they did set it in the US, and their big antagonists are members of a specifically Christian-based cult.
Mm-hmm.
And the game says almost literally nothing about their actions or why they came to power in America, which feels like a relevant thing. The game released in 2018. So in the middle of Trump's first term, it felt like it feels like a game that should say something based on the way that it's set up, and then it just isn't. It's like if you had a sitcom where Hitler was one of the main characters, and then you just never acknowledged that it was Hitler. You were like, oh yeah, he just is. He was eating cereal, and while like the mom and the kids were talking about something, you're like, but are we not going to address this? Mm-hmm. And Far Cry 5 says absolutely not. We aren't going to address it at all.
Yeah, I didn't know if this is where you were going with this train of thought, but I totally agree. It feels like a missed opportunity because it was timely, and it feels like it's a good series or like a good, I don't know, vehicle to actually make a political statement. There's something, yeah, like you mentioned, there's that kind of like, I think there's a word for this, but I'm blanking on it, but that kind of like older Indiana Jones, like we exoticize foreign cultures type series to then turn its eyes on America and look at like what's fucked up about America. I feel like it was like a good opportunity to actually, make a statement, and they just don't at all.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. It's funny because the villains in Far Cry 3 were like pirates, and they did their thing, and they were like stealing wealth and whatever, but they were running a human trafficking ring. And in Far Cry 4, explicitly the villains of that game are fascists. Like they're people who are doing like a hostile government takeover of what is effectively Nepal, though in those games they're both, I think, set in fictional countries. And are like the main villain is like a despot, like who just like tries to take over the country for his own power. And in the Far Cry universe, those things are things that apparently are bad.
Right.
But in Far Cry 5, when those things are happening like in the real world surrounding the setting that they chose, they just kind of made the decision not to take a stand on it. Mm-hmm. Like I feel more, I feel less strongly about this game's sort of lukewarm political leanings than I do about like the movie Barbie, where I'm like, I feel like Barbie did not go far enough with its messaging to be sort of lauded in the way that a lot of people did with it. But like, God, it's leaps and bounds ahead of Far Cry 5 as far as what it was saying.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like they just wanted to use that angle for marketing. Because I do remember they advertised the crap out of this game. And the fact that it was set in America got a lot of buzz, as you would expect. But yeah, like they weren't actually interested in saying anything.
Right. And it's just like, it's one of those things where, because I had this conversation that we're having now with myself inside my own head immediately after finishing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And like, the more that I like thought about it and was upset about the way that they handled a lot of this stuff, the more I also realized that like, you really couldn't have expected Ubisoft to put out a AAA game that costs like $1 bazillion, that takes like such a hard, it was never going to meet anyone's standards for what they wanted the political messaging of it to be.
Right.
And obviously the company is too large to take that kind of a big swing anyway. On one side or the other, frankly. It would be extremely weird if it came out in one way or another. But like, as it stands, I think that the game is kind of, it tried to erase like any sense of like political side taking, but in a really confused way, because like there's a character who's ostensibly part of the resistance who was like a politician and named his truck after Nancy Reagan. And like, obviously the idea of like a conservative radical revolutionary is, it's an ironic statement. They can't exist. You can't be conservative and also want wild change. But that guy is ostensibly on the side of people fighting against the Christian nationalists, who are the antagonists of the game. So you end up with this like weird sort of cross section of things that are like vaguely politically colored, but then scrubbed of any potential like actual opinion that people could have. Right. So you now have a game that uses revolutionary language, but both both sides of the conflict are just like bloody, murderous lunatics.
Yeah. I mean, even if they wanted to shy away from the political angles as much as possible, like I still feel like they could have like leaned into like the cult stuff and like kind of America's history with like glorifying violence, or they could have done like something, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is just missed potential. It is probably like the best, most positive way you could color it, I guess.
And I don't know if this is like how you would want to segue into it, so stop me if you have more to say that you want to. But I think a lot of it, it ends up placing way too much emphasis on the game's villains, on the seeds. And I think that they did a pretty good job with I should have written these names down. Joseph Seed, I think, is the main guy.
Yeah, and then John is the one from the lower left part. He's like John the Baptist. Right. Because he's the one that baptizes people. And then there's Faith, who is the girl. And then I don't remember
she's the girl.
The other guy.
I think it's Jacob.
That would make sense.
I think they're all J
names, yeah.
Yeah. It's not that important, but I do think that Joseph Seed is the one that they, like the actual cult leader, they do a good job of making, and it's the design of the character, the writing, and the performance, the actual voice acting, very important part of it. I think they successfully made him kind of a menacing figure. But he ends up with that problem that I feel like we've talked about in regard to a couple of other games at this point, where he is such like a potent character, but he is just absent from so much of the game. And none of the other characters come close to eliciting the same reaction at least from me. I didn't find any of them as compelling as Joseph.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that, but I didn't really mind. I haven't played the other Far Cry games, so I don't know if that affects it. Like, I didn't really have any expectations, and it kind of reminded me of just like, it's funny to me this keeps coming up, but we talked about this with like Resident Evil 8, where it has that kind of like RPG kind of structure where you have the main bad guy and then the three, like you had the four main bad guys, like your Elite Four or like your four crystals from Final Fantasy sort of setup. And they just kind of all had their zones, and it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like what I would have expected a game of this kind of structure to have. So like,
Right.
I kind of like that there was like a boss for every zone, and how like as you progress through it, like you would interact with them and stuff. Like I kind of like that the smaller bosses and like the presence they had. I felt like all the male ones were kind of the same character is probably more my issue. Like they all kind of look too similar, and have the same kind of shtick. But I thought like Faith was really interesting. Like I think the whole bliss drug, the hallucinogenic flowers was probably like my favorite idea in the whole game. So I feel like leveled her zone up the fastest because I found it the most interesting.
Okay, so you've answered some of my questions already in that description, because I was going to ask how you felt about the way that the game was laid out. Not having played other Far Cry games, I think that your answer makes a lot of sense to me, as it's just kind of like, this is what I was presented with, and it didn't hamper my experience at all. And I kind of agree with that. I do want to talk more about it at some point, but it is interesting though, because like I felt similarly. Like I think my favorite non-Joseph character was John, because I liked the sort of like, well, I like that he was, well, let's talk about this more broadly. I think Joseph felt like a cult leader. Mm-hmm. I felt like every other character felt like a horror movie villain, which is okay. It's fine. But once again, kind of misses an opportunity to sort of coalesce around a single idea. Mm-hmm. But John was like the horror movie villain that I found the most like compelling, because I like that he like tattooed a sin onto your skin and then pulled it off, which is just like a fucked up thing to have happen or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I don't love Faith's character, and I have a weird issue with Bliss being kind of like a no rules, it can do anything drug. Mm-hmm. But I don't care that much. Far Cry weirdly is a series that always has like a hallucinogenic element to it.
Okay.
Yeah, like at least in the ones that I've played, like in 4, there's like a whole segments that take place in Shangri-La, like in a afterlife. But you get there by inhailing drugs, and it's implied to be that.
Okay.
So there's always been like a drug
that
element.
Does
to
make
all
it
the
seem
games.
less interesting then, because that was like a complete curveball to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're expecting it, it's a lot less interesting, I think, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I can see that, though, like, if you don't expect it, it's like, oh, like, anytime I'm in the water here, like, you get, like, the little dizzy thing around you. But that's my biggest problem with it, is that I felt like it was a narrative device and did almost nothing else, because there would be segments where you would be in bliss, and it didn't like put a time limit on anything. It just sort of put a filter over your vision, and then it was just like, do the stuff you would regularly do, but now everything is like slightly pink. I don't know. I was hoping that it would be more than that, I guess, mechanically.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Like, I couldn't get a read on exactly how the mechanic worked. And then, like, early on, it'll just take you out into this, like, weird dream sequence, and, like, you're doing this whole thing where you jump off of a statue and shit. And so, like, I liked it as, like, a narrative thing. Like, I think that's probably why I was drawn to that zone, because it always felt like, oh, like, some weird bliss shit could happen. So, like, I thought it felt like a cool wild card thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and it's interesting to me. I mean, I kind of influenced you on this, because when we were trying to figure out like how you could get like the best experience from the game in like a limited amount of time, we talked about sort of like finishing one section but like doing parts of all of them. But I did not tackle the game in that way. I went to the southwest part of the map and I finished it. And then I went to the east part of the map and I finished it. And then I went to the north part and I finished that. So I just did them all in sequence. I didn't move around. I do kind of feel like they wanted you to do like a Demon Souls kind of thing, where you would like level a thing up to 1, which increases like the difficulty in the area, and then go to the other ones and do each of those up to the first one. But I don't know for sure like what the intended path through the game is.
That's more or less how I played it.
That makes sense to me. But it just kind of isn't the way that I went about it. I don't know if it necessarily helped or hindered my experience, but it did make me think in the first section that there were parts of the game that were going to be true in all sections, and they weren't. So that's kind of nice. One thing that is true in all of them and is related to the bliss is I spent a very long time in the first segment of the game evading capture, like sneaking around through bushes and commandeering boats and going to great lengths not to be taken by the villain. And then learned that it just happens for all of them every time. So not at least 9 times in which you are kidnapped and taken to have like a one-on-one with the villain, which I personally really hated. Because it felt like, oh, I'm gonna go do this thing, and it's like, I leveled up the area to resistance level 2, and now I'm just gonna be whisked away to do a prescribed cutscene type event, and then I can go back to what I was doing.
Right.
It felt very disruptive to me.
Yeah. I found that, like, and I didn't do it as many times as you did, but like I found it if you just like stayed away from the roads, it was like incredibly easy to avoid getting captured. But it is still annoying. And if you leave the zone, I think they stop chasing you, so you could just go to another zone and do whatever you want there.
I guess that's true, but then they would be right back on your ass.
Yeah, if
as
you
soon
come
as
back,
you cross
yeah.
back over.
Yep.
Yeah, because you do have to do it. So when I figured out that you had to do it, I would just run into the embrace of the soldiers every time that they showed up.
Hit me with those bliss bullets.
Exactly. Take me away. So I think that was like kind of an annoying thing. But once again, I'm not playing these games most of the time for the like moment to moment plot. And I don't know. It was annoying because it was disruptive to gameplay. And it was annoying a little bit to me because I was in this mindset where I was like, why could they not have done anything with this narrative that's different than the thing that they did? So it was those things kind of built on each other a little bit, where I was kind of annoyed by the progression system that the game set up. And also I just hated every mission that had you like fighting out of a bunker, which was the final mission of every zone. And I don't know, it got kind of stale. Particularly the one for Faiths, because she seems like the one who was least likely to have a big bunker.
Right. I only did John's. That's the only one I got up all the way.
That was the hardest one, in my opinion.
It was pretty hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I feel like, at least for me, I liked having stealth as like an option, but I don't like it when it's forced on me.
Yeah.
Because, there was definitely some frustrating parts.
No, I feel that. And this is another thing where I feel like the legacy, like the trajectory of the Far Cry series changed a lot after the third one. Because there are so many stealth options in this game, like so many things to improve your like stealth or whatever. And it felt in so many places that if you are discovered at all, then the game just kind of ends. Like you get blown up by 100 guys who you didn't see, who are all instantly aware of you. So I also felt like the stealth was kind of enforced in this game in a way that I wasn't as happy with. Like I liked stealth as an option. I like Far Cry when it feels like Breath of the Wild, right? Like when you look at a situation and you go, oh, I have these options for this. The game puts in little prescribed traps and stuff, like you can shoot the doors off of crates that contain wild animals that will attack people, and then use that as a distraction to sneak by, stuff like that. And I felt like there was a little bit too densely packed areas in this game, and especially in John's bunker, it felt like by the end it was like trying to tell you to like, oh, rush, hurry, press the buttons and whatever and get out of the bunker. But if you actually got seen by somebody, everyone just turns and pumps you full of shotgun shells and you just fall over. So it was weird. Like, I felt in that segment that like stealth did feel like it was being forced on me, as opposed to it being more happy-go-lucky gunfighting and stuff.
Right. Yeah, because like I think it was like the first mission to like liberate whatever zone in the top part of the county, with, I guess that would be Jacob's zone. That like I went in the first like 2 or 3 times and got swarmed by guys and, you know, got killed the crap out of, and I was like, oh, I'll try a stealth approach. And I actually like went around and took out all the guys and disabled the alarm and got through it without being seen. And like that was probably like one of my favorite parts of the whole game. But then yeah, like the bunker escape was one of my least favorite parts of the game. So and they both involve the stealth. So yeah, I think it's only fun, at least for me, if it's I'm choosing to do it.
Right. Yeah, and I think, but I agree with you entirely. But I do also, just to, I guess, throw another kick at the bunker section for no reason. It also has this tonal problem where it seems like it's telling you not to be stealthy, but you have to some degree, you have to sneak and like do takedowns and shit just so that you aren't overwhelmed and murdered. Especially given that there's like explosions happening everywhere and half the map is on fire, and you're like, right. Oh no, like it's hard to see what is dangerous at any given time. So yeah, no, and I'm glad that you had the same sort of general experience with that, because I wasn't sure if it was going to be just because I went to it like quote unquote early, because it was like the first, I did that zone first and it was the first bunker, so I had more like perks and shit unlocked for the later ones. But I do think that like it genuinely is just like that one is hard and the other ones are not as hard. I don't know if you will have the same experience with this that I did, but there's I think this happens in every zone, but at some point during one of the like escalations, they will send airplanes after you. Fuck airplanes. I wish that I liked airplanes when I got to fly in them, the like 2 or 3 times that I did that. And it was like, okay, fun. I would happily not have that if they just removed airplanes from the game. Holy shit, they're the least engaging, most annoying mechanical function that this game had.
Yeah, I for me it was a helicopter. There was one area where like a helicopter just like found me and like I could not escape it. Like no matter how far away I ran, it was like always there until I found a fucking bazooka. Right. So I could shoot it down. But that annoyed the crap out of me.
Well, and this is honestly almost like a meaningless distinction, because I didn't mind the helicopters as much because they were usually closer to you and moving less quickly, so you could blow them up with a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher, or I guess a fucking LMG. But Jesus Christ, it takes 1,000 years to blow something up with a light machine gun. But I think it applies to both, where they're both like this enemy type that will just appear out of nowhere. You can't see them coming. And suddenly it changes the way that you have to play indefinitely unless you shoot them down. And if you shoot them down, then you get like 10 minutes before another one shows up. And continues to do the same thing. My favorite thing to do in a Far Cry game, flat out, just in any Far Cry game I've played, the thing that I have the most fun with, I do love the... Okay. I want to talk about that too. But that's not what I'm getting at here. Are outposts, clearing outposts. I think it's the most like fun thing
it's like
to do
the
in the
core
games.
gameplay.
Yeah. And it's like boiled down. Like it's not like it's not like, oh, I could sneak up on a guy because there's just like a guy on a footpath in the woods. Which is the thing that happens in the game, and it's good that you can do that kind of stuff. But it gets to, there is like more intentional design behind them. You get to like, there's the planning phase where you like bust out the binoculars and you mark all the people, and then you plan your route as to where you're going. And then there's also the alarms, and you can like shut the alarms down so that if you get caught, it's not like an instant game over. You can still fight it out as like a regular gunfight. I feel like it's a really well designed activity within the Far Cry franchise. But if there's a fucking plane, then all of a sudden you will be spotted immediately. And the plane will drop a bomb on you, which weirdly they don't take as like, oh, there must be someone here, but they go to investigate the big fire that just started. And then you have to like, you're trying to like dodge an airplane and also not get seen by the people at it like, there are like 3 or 4 occasions, like it didn't happen super often, where I would get spotted by a plane because I was like scouting an outpost, and then I just had to reload a save immediately because I couldn't do the outpost with the plane on me. So I found that to be really frustrating. Like it was like a thing that was a constant irritant that isn't easy to like avoid doing. There's in fact very little that you could do about the planes and helicopters. And they ruined elements of the game that I actually enjoyed. So I was like really over planes by the end of this game. I was like, I'm sick to death of planes. Get rid of all of them. I don't even care about the player controlled planes. Just, I don't want this to be a feature in the game anymore.
That's interesting. I guess I didn't play as long at like higher wanted levels, but like I didn't really have that experience. Of planes being around all the time.
Yeah, I think I don't know when it happens, but there is like a point where it just says like they've sent the chosen in planes to track you down or something, and then they're just constantly around. It makes it very unfun to play the game.
Yeah, and I've never really been a vehicles and games person in general, so I didn't even really like flying the planes that much.
Yeah,
or driving any of the trucks or cars or anything. I didn't really do that all that often.
Yeah, I am to a degree, but I specifically don't really like the vehicles in Far Cry games. So I'm with you on that. Like driving the cars just felt really awkward most of the time. The planes actually felt like the only thing that made sense to to like get around in for the most part. And honestly, the map is not so large that I really felt the need to not just walk most places. And it's not like I finished the game in like, it's not like I skipped doing vehicles and then the game took 400 hours. Like I think I beat the game after like between 20 and 24 hours of game. Using cars as little as I could get away with, essentially. So, I don't know. They really just didn't make them very fun. And also I felt like you exploded constantly in cars as well. Like they're a big target.
Right.
But I think that kind of comes, all of this sort of boils down to maybe my biggest problem mechanically with the game. We've talked about my biggest problem narratively, and this is my biggest problem mechanically. I feel like this is the thing that we talk about that I never hear anybody else talk about, like personifying a game in this way. I really like it, and I'm glad that we do it. I don't know how seriously people take it when we do it, though. About like a game feeling like the confidence level of a game. And I feel like Far Cry is really not confident. It's very self-conscious, and it thinks that if you have a second of quiet contemplation, that you will quit playing the game forever. And so there's just shit everywhere. Like, you cannot walk 20 feet without a bullet whizzing by your head, or you being attacked by a fucking wombat, or a plane dropping a bomb nearby. Like, it's just like a constant stream of things happening that to me ended up getting kind of overwhelming, where I was just like, I would tire out of playing the game faster than I would in other games of like other like open world games that let me actually think. And I don't know if you had the same experience, but it feels like a very like brain rotty kind of game in that way.
No, I totally did. And I'm surprised to hear you say that, because I thought it was just going to be like, oh, that's like Far Cry's thing, is that shit's always attacking you. Because yeah, like it really stood out when I first started. Like, I'm just trying to go to the first, like after I got off the tutorial island, I was trying to go to like the first objective that I picked. And yeah, just like things just come by on the road like constantly. So I was like, okay, I'll go off the road, and then you immediately get attacked by a mountain lion. And then, like then there's, like some guy, there's like 3 people attacking like a camper, and like, just like something's always attacking you. And then like a helicopter shows up, or then like a fucking buffalo charges at you, and et cetera and so forth. And I feel like I got used to it though as I played. But it was really jarring at first, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think that this is why I tried to go back and play Far Cry 3, because I wanted to like see if like the vibes were different in the way that I was imagining, because I haven't played the game in a long time. And the last time I played it, I was like in my early 20s. So like it was a while ago. And I in my head, you could just walk around, and like the catch of the game is that everything is like more like lethal than you expect it to be. Because there will be like in Far Cry 2, there's like a system in that game that never made a return where your guns could jam, depending on if you've had the gun for a long time, or if you got it like from a corpse or something. It could be like a bad gun and jam all the time, and you have to fix the jam. And so that kind of, and I imagine that the first game also had stuff like this, but it's this escalation of hostility throughout the series. And in 3, random wild animal attacks were like the new hotness. And it did feel a little bit oppressive that you would be like, I'm just like walking up a hill, and suddenly a cassowary is like pecking my eyeballs out, and it was wild. But in this game, it just feels like you cannot be more than 10 feet away from something that wants you dead. And it was really overwhelming. And I do have to say, because I played this on console, this is maybe the first console game that I've played since Christmas. This is a weirdly relevant thing, because I now have a surround sound system. And it made this game very intense, because like the bullets are coming from a bunch of different directions, and like you hear a growl, and I'm like, oh god, is there a bear? It was a very weird and frightening experience playing Far Cry 5 at times, which can be good, but I think there was never a counterpoint to it. There was never a point where it was calm. It was just always high octane, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, there was I watched Donkey's video on this game before coming in here to do the episode today, and he has like a clip of him talking to one of the fishermen. And he's like, it's good to find a moment of peace, like in amongst all this stuff. And like in the background, there's like somebody getting attacked by a wolf and like gunshots going on, just like while he's talking to this guy. And that feels like a really good encapsulation of what we're talking about. Yeah. There are no moments of peace.
There's not a single moment of peace to be had in this whole game.
America. Am I right?
America. And that's because this game introduced a fishing mini game that's actually really complicated. I don't know if you fished at all.
I got the rod, I cast it, waited a couple seconds, got no bites, reeled it in, and never touched it again.
I think I caught like 2 or 3 fish. As somebody who like normally engages with this kind of like collectible type gameplay, the fishing, I was like, this takes so long. And not only that, it doesn't like prevent enemy spawns or anything like that. So I'll be fishing and stop me if you've heard this one before. A fucking plane flies over.
Just kamikaze.
Look, there's a man like, fishing down there.
Crashes right into you. I did on accident. It was actually really funny. Like after that first encounter with the fisherman, like I put the rod away and then accidentally threw a grenade and killed like a bunch of fish. Like almost as if I had planned that as a joke. Right. But it was an accident. I feel like I was going to say something else, but I lost it.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's a little bit more comparable to the fishing in Final Fantasy 15, where it's like a little bit more like simulation-y.
Oh, right.
It's just like if you're like a fishing
to a
enthusiast,
Sega Bass fishing.
Yeah. This one's for you.
Yeah. I wish that there was. I don't know. I'm okay with that. Like, I would have learned some of the fishing stuff if they made the rewards for fishing more enticing. Largely, it's nothing. You get money, which is hardly relevant in the game. I should check to see if I have a note on this, because I do remember complaining about the economy, and by complaining about, I mean I'm the only person that I talked to while I was playing this game, so I was complaining to myself about it. But it felt like a lot of things rewarded you with just like money, and the money was so pointless to me, because like it would be like, oh, you could buy a different kind of gun, and it's like, how different is that gun from the other gun of the same kind that I have? And it's like, not at all, basically 0% different. And so I'd be like, well, I don't care, I will just continue using the same guns that I've been using. So it really disincentivized me from doing a lot of things that seemed like the majority of what their benefit was just giving you cash.
Yeah, I don't
and
know.
that includes all fishing and hunting.
Yeah, I don't know if it's how I was playing the game, because I didn't engage with those kinds of side activities. But like, I felt like all those extra guns and items and stuff were like $9,000, and I don't know if I ever had more than like $2,000.
Right.
So like, anytime I ever looked, I was like, oh, check out the items or the weapons, and I'm like, oh, can't buy any of that. Just buy some ammo.
Yeah, this game has a perk system in it, and there are things that you can get, specifically like the backpack upgrade and the one for that like doubles the amount that you get from animals, like pelts and stuff. Those help to get you like those higher cost things. But yeah, everything costs a whole bunch of money, and there's rarely a reason to have it. The only times really that I had enough money to buy like brand new stuff was after like big story events, because those ones will give you like $5,000 to $10,000 a piece.
Is this the first game we've ever played where the in-game currency is actually US dollars?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it.
Yeah.
I would be inclined to say that No More Heroes probably had dollars.
That's a good call. It probably did.
But I don't know. But I don't remember. You did do
hero
chores.
bucks.
Yeah, they may have been hero bucks. But yeah, the reason that it bums me out, though, I think, is because like when you have an open world game like this, I talked about this being a good game for a certain kind of mood.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we've talked about this before. This is like the kind of game that should be like a turn your brain off kind of game, or maybe like a more relaxing type of game where you can walk around and sort of choose what you do and do a little bit of exploration, because one of the things that these games always do really well is that visually it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I talk often about not liking open world games. One of the things that I like about the Far Cry version of an open world is that it's an open world that it's basically impossible for you to learn like the layout of, because everything looks like a real forest, and real forests are confusing to be in.
Oh yeah, you can tell they really studied like actual like land formations. Like it all does feel very natural and realistic.
Yeah,
and not video
I think
gamey.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would love to just like calmly walk around, not being fired at by a plane or random dudes on the ground, for even a little bit of time, so I could sort of take in that scenery and maybe find one thing that I'm going to complain about that no one else is, a reduced number of caves.
No,
no,
that's a good thing to complain about. The best thing about Tears of the Kingdom was that they added caves.
That's true. Everyone says it.
Yeah. Caves are fun to explore.
Caves are really fun to explore, and there were a couple of them I wanted to ask about. I have my cave directory here pulled up. I don't actually have that. Did you find a cave in Faith's region? It was one of the prepper stashes.
I don't think I found any caves in the whole game.
You found no cave. I feel so
so
bad for you. So they're these side missions that are called prepper stashes, and they don't reward you with any resistance points like toward the main story progress, but they'll always give you 3 skill points like for your perks. So they're usually worth tackling for that alone. They also give you a lot of money, which is also probably why you didn't have any money most of the time. This game has split this between most of the prepper stashes are actual like bunkers, and it'll be like a locked door somewhere and you have to find the key. And like one of them was like you did a haunted house that was like a legitimate haunted house with like cardboard cutouts of things that jumped out at you, which is pretty funny. And like there's another one where you like there's like a big thing. They call it like a dredge, which I thought was like a verb, but apparently it's a noun as well. But it's a big piece of like construction equipment that's crashed into the side of a mountain, and you turn it on and it like busts up the ground, and then you swim under it, and then you can get into one of these like survival bunkers from the side. And like a lot of these are really cool, but they put a lot of them in bunkers that look the fucking same. Every one of them is identical. But then a couple of them are in caves, and all the ones that are in caves are fucking amazing. And I don't know why they didn't look at that and go, we need 100 more of these. Because there's one that's like a platforming challenge, like a floor is lava platforming challenge, where you have to go between these little islands and use the grappling hook to like swing across. And it's amazing. It's a great little mini game. But then my favorite one was one where you blew up, like there were like piles of rubble and there's dynamite in the cave, and you would just dynamite into like other rooms, and they would either have enemies in them or like loot, or it's the way forward. And I was just like, damn, like I remember how fun the cave exploration was in the previous Far Cry games. With these few caves in here, and I just wish that there were more, because they were like the caves and the outpost clearing. I really, when I was doing those things, I was having a great time with Far Cry 5. That I don't know where the fuck I came off of or am going to with any of this, but I just wanted to gush about caves. I love caves.
I mean, those do sound pretty cool. I wish I would have found a cave. One thing I want to mention, just want to keep hammering this home any chance that I get. I love that this game does not have a mini map. No mini map, so you can actually look at the fucking game and not at the corner of the screen. And I didn't even notice that it didn't have one until I was like making notes, which I think just goes a long way towards showing that mini maps are unnecessary.
Because if there was a mini map in the game, it would be the first thing on your mind because you spent most of the game staring at it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I am an apologist for mini maps as like a concept, but I feel like you are correct in that open games super don't need a mini map. A mini map is good for a game that has like an enclosed space that has like multiplayer games can have a mini map, and I feel like it makes some amount of sense.
I can agree with
like
that.
A radar. But when you're designing a game like this, like it's so much better to just like make the world a thing that you can look at and see where you're going. But speaking of things of seeing where you're going, speaking of moving around, I do want to talk about that parachute.
Right.
So this game is a parachute and a wingsuit as like aerial mobility options. These were things that were in other Far Cry games. I think the wingsuit was in 4 and then 3 didn't have it. But both of those games, to my recollection, though I won't be able to tell you for certain because Ubi Connect has locked away my access to previous Far Cry games.
More like Ubi Disconnect.
Yeah, more like Ubi Disconnect. Fucking got him. My memory of it was that the parachutes of those games were much more permissive. It didn't happen like a bunch of times or anything in this, but I want to be able to just like climb up a little bit of a hill and jump off and deploy the parachute and then go in a straight line in the opposite direction from the hill I jumped off of. Like that doesn't seem like it would be that much to ask, but you have to actually have like a lot of leeway to be able to open the parachute because of the long animation. I know that this game isn't a cartoon, but isn't it enough of a cartoon to let me do that? Like, what's cool about the parasail in Breath of the Wild is that it gives you that aerial movement whenever you have the opportunity to take it. And the parachute should be like that, but instead it's this thing where you have to like prepare. The game marks like base jumping spots on your map. Fuck your map. Just let me base jump from wherever is high enough. It's so stupid. I felt like there's a lack of freedom there is basically my problem.
Now, I agree 100%. I thought it might have been a skill issue on my part, but I was like, there aren't enough like steep cliffs in this game. Like, I feel like every hill is too gradual that like every time I jump off and try to use it, I either can't or fall and take a bunch of damage because the parachute couldn't open. So like I ended up like barely ever using it, even though I tried to use it for a while, because it just seemed like there weren't very many good spots to do it.
Yeah, it just felt like it should have been more fun to use the parachute to do stuff. And there's I didn't end up getting this. They are true anti-fun haters for doing this. There's a perk called airdrop that you can get once you have unlocked both the parachute and the wingsuit. It like unlocks that third node, which whenever you fast travel somewhere, it allows you to choose to be airdropped instead of just being on the ground, so that you come in flying. And so you can like use that as a way to kick off like a movement with the wingsuit, or to use the parachute and the binoculars to like scope an area out from the air, which is so cool. But they also made it cost like 1 billion perk points to get it, and it's not like a necessary thing. But like, it's obviously one of the most fun things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of the other ones are like, oh, you have less bullet spread with shotguns. Like, fuck off. Let me jump out of an airplane. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But that one costs 1 million points for some reason.
Yeah, I did see a review where a guy basically just did that manually, where he would just like fly an airplane somewhere and jump out of it.
I would do that. Yeah, for sure. And that's honestly, that's more immersive in the sense that that's a thing that you do on your own. You don't have to open a map and fast travel to something to do it.
Yeah, like I found like a lot of those fun things like weren't like designed around enough. Like we already talked about with the parachute and the wingsuit, but like I also felt like the grappling hook. It's like barely used for anything.
Yeah, it's also.
And those are the things that make the game unique, in my opinion. And, you know, it's barely using them.
And yeah, you just don't see the points for them very often. And it's like, that's another one that's a victim of the escalating realism of the game, because your grapple can get broken by like any fucking thing that you happen to touch on the way up. So it becomes way less like kind of free form where you could just like hit the grapple and then like repel and like swing around and get up to where you want to go. And there are a few places where I think it's used in a cool way, but I agree largely. I feel like if that was there more often, but they can't put it there more often because they put it behind a perk thing. And if you don't have the perk thing, then it locks you out of that stuff. There's a lot of complaining I'm doing about the perk system. I'm very indifferent toward it. I don't actually feel that negatively. But I do think that like parachute, grappling hook should have been things that you just had and that you didn't have to buy, and they could design more around it.
Agreed.
Did you so I didn't quite finish the game. Did you see like what the final boss was?
Yeah, I watched the ending.
Okay. I just want to mention that as much as I praised Joseph Seed as like a good character, it is maybe the worst boss fight I've ever seen in a video game. I mean, that's probably not true. It might be true. It might be the worst final boss that I've ever played. That's not impossible. Just because it feels like it makes no sense from any perspective that you look at it. The way the final boss of this game plays out is all of the people you by yourself get in a car and drive to the compound, at which point the game takes control away from you. You cannot pull out guns, you can't climb things, you can't like scope it out with your binoculars. You just have to walk to the door of the chapel. And then everyone that you've ever met shows up and they want to kill you because they're under the effects of the bliss drug, which, as we've described, can just do whatever it wants within the narrative of the game. And you have to kill them and then revive them, a process that takes like 6 seconds per person. And revive all of them at the same time in order to progress to the next stage, where even more random characters who you don't care about show up and you kill them, but now you have like a small team to fight them. And it's just the most mind-numbing, boring loop to go through. And you just occasionally have to shoot at the ones that are bad, or at Joseph, who can teleport, because why not? He teleports
because he's the final boss. Yeah,
because he's the final boss, and so he can teleport wherever he wants to go. It's so unfun, unsatisfying, and also requires you to do an action where you just hold the interact button.
Right. I mean, at least they're going for like. I mean, I didn't play it, so I'm going to be more charitable. But it didn't look like it was fun. But At least you're going for something conceptually, like you're like beating the cult with a cult of your own, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. There's something about conversion or some kind of an idea there.
That's true. I'll give it that I wasn't on board until you said conversion, because I didn't consider the bliss. They were evil, but then you can bring them back and they're not evil anymore, which does make me go like, man, we sure killed a lot of guys who maybe we could have brought back. I don't know.
But they were rednecks, so who cares?
But they're just like some residents of Montana. Who gives a fuck? And then the game ends, and the ending is questionable.
Yeah, the ending was a weird ending.
Yeah, right? The fact that it's like, because there are technically two endings, and both of them are bad for you, because you can choose to walk away instead of doing the really unfun boss fight. And if you do that, then your character, who's been like psychologically conditioned by Jacob Seed to have like a violent response when they hear a song, kills everybody that they're friends with, and then presumably joins the cult or whatever. In that ending. And then the other ending, it's just there's a nuclear apocalypse. Which doesn't have the one time I would have preferred that they do a James Bond villain narration at the end of the game to explain what that was. Like, was that the cult's doing? Or
is it the military?
Yeah, like anything like that.
Because I find maybe this isn't like his personal preferences, but you have like a character like Jacob, who's like that kind of Joker archetype where he just kind of is like, into the arms of the Lord, and I'll be okay. He'll, and he's rewarded for it. Like, he just survives the helicopter crash at the beginning and walks away unscathed. Like, you're just like waiting for that character to get his comeuppance, like for things to turn on him, and it never does. And like, I just feel like I'm fine with like in a weird, unexpected, or like, unhappy ending, but like, I just feel like the nuke thing is just like not satisfying, or I don't know. It was a miss for me. I don't exactly know how to sum it up.
Yeah. It would make more sense if the characters talked about that as a possibility at all.
Yeah, it kind of seems like he does have divine powers.
Right.
The way that the game shakes out.
Yeah. Well, the game has multiple like horror movie moments in it. Like that one where the nukes go off, where you get tied up at the end and like have to listen to him talk, and he's like, "Oh, you're my family now." Like that's a horror movie moment.
Yeah, welcome to the family, son.
Well, he says, "Welcome to the family, son," and then he punches you. Crazy how they predicted that. And then, like, there's the part at the beginning when the helicopter crashes, and he grabs the radio, and the person on the phone is like, your dispatch officer is a member of the cult. That's a horror movie moment. So it has all these like weird moments like this, but without ever explicitly stating, does he have divine powers? Or is he like a great puppet master? And they don't let either of those possibilities breathe. Like, they can't give you a resolution that plays to either of them. So now the player is just wondering if that is what you're supposed to think.
And I think that would work if you ever brought him back, as a character. Like, if you want to leave it hanging, I think, but like, like if I assume he's not ever going to come back in another game. Like, they could do Far Cry 5 too. When they get to Far Cry 5 10, it'll be Far Cry 5 2.
Right, of course.
I feel like you need to have some kind of resolution to that. Like, I think as it stands, the more I'm thinking about it, the read I have is that it is the U.S. military just like deciding to like that it's a lost cause and to just nuke the whole area and kill the cult.
Right. And I think that makes, I mean, it makes some amount of sense because, like, the people that you go in with are like, are federal marshal. They're duly appointed federal
marshals required to keep their firearms on them at all times.
So I can believe that, like, oh, like the military does know and that they might take that action. Because
I think that you kind of are
forced to.
Because they say something about calling in the National Guard, and then there's some kind of reason that they don't, and because, you know, the game has to happen.
And I just had to check this out. And I swear to God, there is something. This is another thing that you're not going to be familiar with because you don't have any experience with the franchise. But 3 had a spin-off game that was called Blood Dragon. So you're right, which is like
I feel like, I don't know if this is where you're going with this, but like I feel like when I downloaded the game, there was a list of like 1 million DLCs.
Yeah. So I was going to say maybe we do know what happens with Joseph Seed in one of the DLCs, but I'm like 90% sure that there's 2 DLCs and one of them is set in Vietnam and one of them is set on the moon, which is
like one of them just zombies or something.
Oh, and there's a zombie. There's a third one, but none of those are more of Far Cry 5. Those are 3 distinct campaigns that are different from the main game, which was the thing that 3 started with Blood Dragon, and then 4 had the one where you hunted Yetis. And there's also a spin-off game called Far Cry Primal, which you were played as a caveman. So like it's like mainline games and then just weird bullshit. So they've never done like an addendum to an existing story as far as I can remember. Which would be necessary for us to really understand what happens at the end of this one. So, very weird, very weird.
Weird note to end on.
Yeah, for sure. So we shouldn't end on it. And we should end on the note that I have that's one sentence that just says the music is kind of fire.
I can't really in the moment remember the music that well. But I will say, I do kind of like some of the sound design, though. Like there's like the little jingle that plays when you enter like combat. There's like a little thing that plays, and like I feel like that stuff was distinct, which is a good thing in my book.
Yeah, and I think that like overall, like all of the presentation aspects of this, which maybe shouldn't have saved to talk about for the very end, because anybody listening to this is just like, they hate this fucking game. But they're all like, they've been good and are still good here. Like I love all the sound effects and the just like how the place looks. It's gorgeous, genuinely, especially being like something that I'm like actually kind of familiar with. There's like a satisfaction that comes from like getting in a pickup truck and driving through a cornfield. Because if you've ever lived near a cornfield, you're like, it seems like it would be fun to drive a truck through it.
Right.
And I can finally live out that fantasy that I can't do in real life. So I did appreciate sort of all of that stuff, all those elements of it. The reason I call it the music is because there's all the music is licensed music, or it's music about the cult that's written for this diegetic use. And I really loved it. Like I thought that was a great touch that they have this like sort of gospel-y style. The songs are good, but the fact that it's like an in-universe thing for the cult is great. And I like that they have like the trucks that blare them from the speakers as they drive around.
Yeah. That's ringing a bell. I can't believe I forgot about that. Because I also remember there's like a side quest with this guy at a trailer park that just has like a flamethrower. You have to defend it, and then he just like blares Disco Inferno over the speakers.
Yeah, there are, to my knowledge, 2 side quests that have that problem where it's like this is maybe less great because there's the Disco Inferno one where you kill zombies, which didn't really talk about
angels.
The angels, yeah. But yeah, they have that mission where it blares Disco Inferno until you specifically turn it off. And there's another one where you're in a hotel and it just keeps playing Get Free by the Vines on loop, which is a song I generally like, but boy, after like 20 minutes of hearing it play loudly in the background while gunfire went off, I was kind of tired of it.
And I don't know if it was a scripted thing or if this is random, like what comes on the radio, but the mission where you have to steal back the semi-truck, when I turned it on, Barracuda by Heart was playing, which just felt like a very appropriate song for that.
I do think there are a couple of those as well, now that you mention it. There's like ones where you get in the car and like a very apropos classic rock song will be playing, and that's kind of cool, yeah. So yeah, that stuff I thought I thought all of that stuff was done really well, except for specifically the missions where they took longer than 10 minutes to do and only had one song for them. Those would be the two missteps, in my opinion. I have a few kind of rapid fire stuff to talk about.
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm tapped out.
Okay. I think I could probably... Okay, yeah. It's two things that I want to mention, one of which you'll have more experience with than the other. So let's start with the one that I think will be shorter. I feel like open world... This game came out fucking 8 years ago at this point. Like, it's been long enough that some advancements can be made. I do feel like open world quest design has been, and in the case of this game, is kind of bad. I found most of the main missions of the game to be pretty boring and uninspired. They're like, get in a car and go here, kill guy, get thing, go somewhere else. Like, it's never anything all that unique. And I was comparing them in my head to Grand Theft Auto's story missions, where they were similarly like, oh, pick up a guy and take him to this location. But I found that the ones in Far Cry compared unfavorably to those, and they are pretty bad most of the time. So I feel like there's something that we're missing in open world level design that I feel like could be capitalized on, or maybe there are versions of this that exist that are good, but
it does feel like it's lacking for any kind of like good authored content. But like I do kind of feel like this game had a little bit more of like an open structure, or a less Ubisoft-y structure than I felt like I was expecting. They even make a joke at the beginning that you don't have to climb towers. And like I do kind of like that you could tackle the areas in any order, and you could do the missions in any order, which is nothing crazy or new, but it felt a little bit more open and kind of just free than I was expecting. So I thought that was a positive, at least. Like, it's not the worst open world design I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I think that a big saving grace for me on it, and why I end up liking this open world more than I thought that I would, is that so many things contribute toward progress toward the end of the game that you don't have to do. Like the Faith's region took me the longest to finish. And a lot of it was I was just doing side content because the main story quests they had for me were like, go hunt animals or go find like 20 things and do stuff. And I was like, no, thank you. But the fact that I was able to go do other things, I think is a big plus. Even if it took me longer, I didn't have to engage with the more just catastrophically boring missions that they had.
It's not as checklisty.
Yeah. So yeah, I will give it credit for sure. I think that just like mission design in these types of games needs like a examination.
There's like
probably not by us.
Yeah, there's like almost no memorable quests.
Yeah, like the ones that I've even described were either memorable for a bad reason or were like the prepper stash quests where you have to go find them in the open world, which is what not a quest given to you by the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing I want to talk about, which is not, now that I'm thinking about it, I should have brought up like 40 minutes ago.
It happens,
This
it
game
happens.
this game has companions.
Mm.
And I hated all of them unilaterally except for the dog and the cat. All of the people were really annoying. And the bear, sadly, was just too fragile to be able to do anything useful.
Yeah, I think I was put off of using them at all because the first, like, you get off of the island at the beginning, and one of the closest things you can do is like go to like, I can't remember where it is like an orchard or something or a pumpkin patch or whatever, and you have to free this dog. And I was like, okay, free the dog, kill all the guys, whatever. The quest is, and then you can like open the cage, like, and recruit the dog as a companion. And I'm like, oh hell yeah, I got a dog with me. And I go down the road, run into some guys. He gets shot and killed instantly. And I was like, well, I don't know. That kind of bummed me out. And I freed this dog, and he immediately gets killed. So I'm just never gonna take the dog again. And then I picked up one guy like way later on a way to a mission. It was just like, like skinning a deer or something in a field. And then he stuck with me for like ever. Like he just like he stayed alive forever. And then like and once he died or whatever, he ended up going away for whatever reason. I wasn't paying attention. After that, like I just never took anyone with me ever again.
Yeah. I'm a big stealth combat guy in the Far Cry games. I like to use stealth as my primary thing, and then everything else as a secondary option if stealth goes wrong. And I just, even though I don't think that the random like militia people can be spotted if you are sneaking, the fact that they would say things all the time, like, I'm changing position or whatever, like, oh, there's some Peggies over there. I would be like, shh, you know, please don't give away my position. Like the mental damage it did to me made me not want to take them places. And then there were ones like, because I used all of them for their stat point yield for the challenge of like having them get to 5 or 10 kills. But then I tried to avoid using companions for the most part after that. But there are some of them that are actively detrimental to you. Like there's a dude, the Disco Inferno guy, can set like the grass on fire. And a little, one of the things that was like big about the Far Cry game, starting with the first one, is that they had this fire propagation tech that they were showing off with the game, which is why there's so much fire in these games. But it's really annoying if you're trying to like do something and suddenly the whole hillside is on fire and you have to run away. So I never took that fucking guy. So yeah, I found that the companions were mostly more trouble than they were worth. But they felt like the kind of thing that was implemented to make the combat easier. So I kind of felt like it was kind of just a misfire on the part of the developers a little bit for these. Do we have Far Cry thoughts?
My Far Cry thoughts. I don't know. This was a lot to take in, I think, because I've never played a Far Cry game before. Yeah, I don't know. I actually kind of liked it more than I expected to. As I said way earlier in the episode, I'm not usually just like a guy with gun kind of fan. If you're just playing as a regular person that shoots regular people with guns, you need like some kind of strong hook to get me in. And the Far Cry games never really seem to have that sort of thing for me. So yeah, I was never really drawn to play them, but I feel like it was pretty fun. Yeah, like I like that there is like a kind of, I don't know, there's a kind of energy to it. They have the weird little things like the hallucinogenic drug mechanic. You have like the parachute and the grappling hook, and like I feel like they're trying to do some stuff that's different and like just fun. But I felt like it kind of like wasn't in there enough, at least for my tastes. And yeah, I just feel like maybe like the balance was off, or like maybe it almost kind of felt like maybe it needed to pick a lane. Like I know like you were talking about like you like the outposts and the
and cave exploration.
Cave exploration. Yeah, something like that. Like were like your favorite like parts of the gameplay. And I think I largely agree. And it felt like it could have like focused in more on those things that were like the best parts. Like the thing would be stronger as a whole. But yeah, like once you kind of settle into the game and you get kind of used to how everything's attacking you every 5 seconds, like it is actually like a pretty fun open world to explore. Like you can't say that it's empty. You know, you can't say that you're like walking, 20 minutes across an empty field or anything like that. So yeah, it had its moments, I think, where it shined pretty well. But yeah, I think overall, yeah, I feel like it had like a little bit of a lack of focus, in my opinion. And then yeah, like the story, I was really intrigued by at the beginning, because like I remember the whole America angle from the advertising. I remember thinking it seemed like it would be really lame. Like it was just trying to be like topical. But I think it is more interesting than I would have expected, but they don't have like follow through with it, which I think we covered pretty thoroughly at the beginning. So it was a bit of a disappointment on that front too. So yeah, I feel like it's the kind of game that's really easy to kind of pick apart, if you're like analyzing it like critically. But like I think if this was just something I just played for fun, I feel like I would have finished it and I would have had a good time and I've been like, yeah, I like that. So, like I think it's like a solid, fine game. And I've said this about other games, but for me, it feels kind of like video game junk food. It was like a good, fun time, but like I'm not getting a lot of nutrition out of it, So yeah, like I liked it well enough, more than I expected to. So
yeah. I agree with you on that. I think that there's because there are multiple ways to get nutrition out of a game. You could blend it up and eat it. But you can, because if this is your first Far Cry game, which in your case it was, there is an element of like novelty to the way that Far Cry specifically approaches open world games and combat and everything else. Like there are things to explore and learn and get used to with the games. But then the other way to get nutrition out of a game is through, any kind of sort of mental activity. And I think that the story and characters of this game are kind of what lets it down the most for me. Because I largely agree with everything else. I think that my complications within my feelings come from the fact that I do like the game at a baseline level, but feel like I was disappointed with the things that could have made the game more unique. So yeah, the America angle, even not judging it as like a missed opportunity to say something that would have been like interesting from like a modern perspective, I feel like they did not want to say anything interesting from anyone's perspective, except that like the most cartoonishly evil people portrayed in the game are evil and bad as you expected. And so conversely, by making the villains horror movie villains, rather than increase the amount of threat that they pose, the more cartoony and sort of non-threatening they feel, especially when they kidnap you 9 times and then set you free again. It just felt like a big kind of mess from that perspective, like from the narrative point of view. But otherwise, yeah, I do still think that the game is a worthwhile game to play. I wouldn't recommend it as most people's first Far Cry game. I think it's a little bit too openly hostile toward the player at all times. And it doesn't have sort of the level of novelty that the other games have, in my opinion. And most importantly, it has fewer caves than Far Cry 3 did, which is a really important part of the game, of the Far Cry franchise that should be respected. So yeah, I realize how like our conversation came off, and specifically sort of the way that I spearheaded some discussions that maybe didn't portray the game in the most valiant light, but like, it's not a bad game. I wouldn't call it that, and I do enjoy it. So yeah, I like the game. I wish that it had taken bigger swings, and I wish that it had been more confident in the parts of the game that weren't its gunplay and the combat elements, and it let us actually get absorbed within the world of Hope County. It would have been a lot more interesting, I think. Thank you for listening to Describing the Skybox this week.
What will we be describing next time?
Next time, for the third of 4 games that we're going to be talking about for Fanbruary, we're going to be talking about Klonoa 2. The Veil. It's Klonoa 2, and there's no subtitle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the
PS2
subtitle again.
Platformer.
It is a PS2 2D platformer. So look forward to that. That's been a game that was suggested multiple years in a row, which is one of those things that always we're like, oh, okay, this one they want talked about. Mm-hmm. We can't ignore Klonoa 2 forever. But yeah, until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at describingtheskybox.com or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our email address, our Blue Sky account, the Discord where people suggested these games, as well as our YouTube channel, which hosts all of our old episodes, including ones that we did on Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Assassin's Creed 2.
Assassin's Creed 2, on Call of Duty Modern Warfare, another guy with a gun game.
Assassin's Creed 2, famously the most okay game I've ever played.
No, honestly, probably a good thing about this game as a choice is it really is not that similar to many other things that we've played.
Mm-hmm.
Because what am I like? Oh, what's an open world game? It's kind of like Elden Ring,
Mm-hmm.
Very loosely, kind of. Attempt to parachute onto that like button
And break your leg on it.
and instead
Recruit companions in the comment section.
Oh boy, use your grappling hook to scale a bell tower and ring it being that bell.
Goodbye.
Subscribe to Ubi Connect.
Subscribe to another plane shooting at you.
Is it cheating if I say, do we have Far Cry thoughts?
Nah.
Okay. That's what I'll go with then.
No, I thought you were gonna actually deliver it.
Oh, you want me to do it good?
Yeah, like do it for real. You hack.